graft continues to weave itself around the fabric of society and has become a way of life, seeping through the hallowed hallways of power to sacred institutions like courts of law and the church. When billions of shillings are swindled into the hands of a few, it works towards the detriment of service delivery, leaving millions without proper hospitals, drugs, better schools, and sends others into abject poverty. Despite the country passing a raft of laws and establishing watchdog graft bodies, it appears that graft seems to have found a safer sanctuary and will require the finesse of seasoned surgeons to safely conduct an operation that will leave the country intact. On Citizen Voices this evening, we speak to the head of the anti-graft unit at State House, Colonel Edith Nakalema. We also have the executive director of PPDA, Mr. Benson Turamye, and Dr. Maxwell Ongetho, who is from the Office of the Auditor General. It's such a pleasure to host you, and you're welcome to this program, Citizen Voices. Our hashtag is Amplifying Citizen Voices. Thank you very much for sparing time to come and appear with us this evening. First things first, Madame Nakalema, I guess you have quite a tough assignment on your hands. But since you were appointed in 2018, how can you assess the progress, the achievements that you've made amidst, I guess, a couple of challenges?
Emmanuel, thank you very much for having us here today. Our viewers, we are here to share our views on what has been described as maybe should I call it a beast called corruption, because it touches everywhere. First and foremost, I want to thank the citizens, all wananchi of the Republic of Uganda. They have given us every support by providing information about corruption. The word corruption is so wide. It touches a number of areas, starting from our homes to schools to institutions and in every society. So from the 10th of December 2018, when His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda launched a State House Anti-Corruption Unit, we have been to 27 districts. Of course, we used to move before the pandemic attacked us, or attacked the whole world. And wherever we went, we were received by citizens or local people in those communities with a lot of, should I say, we were welcomed with enthusiasm. You would see that people wanted to be listened to, wanted to be attended to, and we tried, we are still doing our best to reach out to citizens. Whenever they report, we pay much attention. So back to your question, Emmanuel, that how do I assess, should I say, the journey in the fight against corruption? I want to say that we have moved some distance, and we haven't moved alone as a unit. We work closely and we have been supported and helped by other anti-corruption agencies. For us, we came in as a coordinating, should I say, coordinating arm, because His Excellency the President tasked us to coordinate with other mandated agencies to ensure that citizens' complaints are attended to. We have so far, working together with Uganda Police, of course, the investigations that are done at the State House Anti-Corruption Unit are all led by CID, the detective police officers that are attached to the unit. So working closely with the CID and Uganda Police at large, and my greatest thanks go to the IGP and the police leadership, working also together with the ED-PPDA here, because only the PPDA can prove the fraudulent procurement of government properties or even disposing of government resources. Also, the Auditor General, Mr. John Mwang, and his team. I am glad we have Dr. Maxwell Ongotho here. They have supported us. So we have arraigned before courts of law a total of 296 persons. And out of those, 199 are public officials who have all been interdicted and therefore are not paid fully. They are not taking the taxpayers' money fully. And we so far have 39 persons convicted, and those will not serve government for the next 10 years. Again, working closely with these experienced and very respected heads of anti-corruption agencies, we have been able to recover close to 26 billion shillings as a unit, again working with, coordinating closely with the anti-corruption agencies. And a big credit goes to the office of DPP and DPP herself. The prosecutors have done commendable work. They're the ones that present evidence. So, and also go ahead to prosecute the implicated persons. The recoveries, I would even break them down. I would break down the money recovered for government from government agencies. I will start with His Excellency, the President's intervention in the COVID-19 relief food that was given to the vulnerable persons in the first, should I say, the first wave of COVID-19. 8.6 billion shillings was saved from the inflated figures, from the inflated amount by the former technical leaders or the former technical staff of the office of the Prime Minister, and they are still in court. When we intervened in the Bukasa Inland Port project, which was we caused a re-verification exercise, and 3.6 billion was saved. When we intervened in Nagrik under Ministry of Agriculture recently, it's coming to a year, but profitability or non-tax revenue of Nagrik, having taken the ED and his top managers to courts of law, the non-tax revenue have increased from 800 million to 3.6 billion shillings by this year, in 1 year. Profitability for Post Bank Uganda, which is 100% government of Uganda, when we arraigned before courts of law the former MD with his top management, about 11 people, the profitability has increased. The Post Bank profitability has increased from 3,390 million shillings to 10 billion shillings this year. They closed at 10 billion shillings in 2020 financial. Yeah. So for us, we see that we are moving, we are recovering money. Again, all that we have so far achieved is because of the coordination with other anti-corruption agencies. Like I said, PPDA proves the procurement that is always, when it's done by breaking when it's not done according to the law, Auditor General has given us, has proved to courts of law the loss of the financial loss caused to government, and that's how our cases are going on and going on very well. We are grateful to the honorable courts that are independent.
Thank you so much, Kano. And to sum it up, you say 26 billion shillings recovered,
yes,
a number of prosecutions of senior civil servants. But we'll come back to you later. But to bring in the ED of PPDA, procurement in this country has become quite synonymous with graft. In fact, there are those who believe it's a crucible for corruption. We see quite a lot of, interference by very highly placed people. I think a survey indicates that many people who put in bids to procure for work expect to, pay a kickback. What is, in your view, how serious is this problem?
Thank you, Emmanuel, and good evening, viewers. Procurement, first of all, if we had to put it in the context for our viewers to follow the discussion, is acquisition, the process of acquisition of goods, services, and works for public use. So when you see these roads, you see the irrigation schemes, you see government goods, vehicles, ferries. When you see services in consultant services and non-consultant services like cleaning services, catering services, all that is provided to government goes through public procurement. And the allocation is also quite big. Over 60% of government budget goes through public procurement. If the budget is around 44 trillion, that means 60% is around 25 trillion. So that in itself attracts a lot of attention and interest. If you are going to do business with government, then, or if you are going actually, if you're a businessman, you're a company doing business, then there is a lot of money in government compared to what exists in public. So the graft you are talking about is, I wouldn't say is perceived, but it can be discussed.
It exists.
Yes. It exists, yes, in some cases. The biggest area now, or the biggest concern, would be attitude change. If you are a supplier, you are a provider, you are a contractor, why should you think that you can't get this contract without parting with a bribe? Because government actually needs these service providers more than what the service providers need government. Because if everybody says we can't part, still government will go ahead and procure these services. So it's an area of concern, because first of all, the receiver and the giver are both culprits. So the giver should actually put a resistance, should say no to this device. And that is when we can actually fight it. But as the authority, as PPDA, it is true in public procurement where we have found these cases. We have worked with our sister organizations, Inspectorate of Government and Corruption, State House and Corruption Unit, and put these culprits out so that they can be prosecuted. We also work with the DPP for purposes of prosecution. So the graft is becoming even more sophisticated, where in the processes of public procurement, you find it is inbuilt in specifications, in statement of requirements, where you are going to do, say, a road or a building, then these are inbuilt in bills of quantities. What does that mean? It means that even whoever gets, if the bills of quantities are inflated, then the kickbacks can happen there. What I would highly discourage is for bidders or for providers think that you can't get a government contract without a kickback. That one should be put in outside our minds. And it will be in breach of the PPD Act, because there are principles of public procurement where we talk about competition, fair competition. If there is fair competition and everybody is participating, it is an open tender, then why should you think that you should bribe to get this contract? Because everybody is participating fairly, and you don't know the price of the other one, so you can. But also, it would be against the principles of transparency, non-discrimination, and accountability. But also value for money, because these bribes we are talking about actually bring contracts very high. So when, as regulators, as PPDA, we are looking at establishing what you call rates, standard specifications, so that if government is going to buy a ferry, we know that ferries, these are standard specifications. If we are going to build a road, we know that a square meter of 1 cubic volume of marram or asphalt is costing this.
Perhaps could that have cured the problem for Kampala Express, which is, they say, is one of the costliest roads on earth, if you had, with hindsight, if that had been done?
Yes, the expensiveness of a contract depends on the specifications. So I wouldn't comfortably confirm that Express Highway was the most expensive, because you need to understand what were the bills of quantities. Were you building so high? Because the road, we are not looking at so many kilometers. If we say 10 kilometers of road costed 10 billion, and another one says 5 kilometers of roads costed 10 billion, you can't conclusively say that the one of 5 kilometers was very expensive.
Definitely.
You have to know what was involved in that 5 kilometers.
Like, for instance, compensation. And
compensations, even the materials
but
used.
I think the people have tried to do all those comparisons to come to that conclusion. But to bring in Mr. Ngetho from the Auditor General, of recent, you've produced quite compelling audits into the funds that have been spent on procurements, lucrative procurements, and all these tenders and all these things that were single sourced. I've found them quite enriching, and they have quite interesting evidence, cogent evidence, leads. How has the reaction of other implementing agencies been? Have they been collaborative to ensure that we account for every penny? Because we're facing a monumental health crisis. It calls that we account for every penny. How have the other agencies reacted, and what's the way forward?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and good evening, viewers. We are very grateful that you have given the Office of Auditor General this opportunity to talk to citizens so that citizens can appreciate the work that their taxes do in relation to the funding of Office of Auditor General. First of all, I want to, give a simple explanation of what the Office of Auditor General really does. The Office of Auditor General, is an office mandated by Parliament, by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, to independently assess performance, the implementation of government programs, and establish whether those activities have been performed in accordance with accepted procedures, standards, and specifications, and that they actually satisfy the requirements of economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. The Office of Auditor General comes in as an external auditor at the tail end of an activity. What we mean is that, first of all, implementation takes place, and then audit comes to assess whether the implementation has complied with the requirements. So this helps to bring out clearly whether those activities were done in compliance with what I had already specified, and that helps to hold those who implemented accountable, either for doing the work in accordance with the specifications and as the law requires, or having erred. And therefore, that is what now helps other institutions of government, especially the anti-corruption agencies, the oversight bodies, to pick it up from there and follow up. And when a report comes out, there are many stakeholders. The oversight body in the Parliament, also sits to evaluate, to assess those who are involved in the implementation and seek explanations on matters that, which was not satisfactory. They also appreciate where work has been done well, and other institutions like, for example, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit also uses the report as an information to begin to find out whether they can take it further.
So how can they ably use the reports that you on the COVID funds?
The report of the Auditor General, when it comes out, it follows a process. But the moment the report is made public, that is received by the Parliament and tabled, it becomes a public document. Now, when it's a public document, it now means other agencies with various responsibilities can now utilize the report. While Parliament can proceed with the process of calling to question the implementers to answer for whatever they have done, other agencies can use that report to initiate their investigations. Like the IGG can pick it up if there are indications of corruption, abuse of office. They can use that report to initiate further investigation. The same thing can be done, a similar thing can be done by the CIID. A similar investigation can be picked up by a State House Anti-Corruption Unit, which they have done many times. And even citizens themselves can pick it up and ask questions. So I would say that our report has significantly opened the eyes of various entities to now initiate their appropriate action on the services that are provided, whether provided in accordance with the acceptable procedures or not. Yeah, so I would say that since the Office of Auditor General has expanded its services to the extent that now it is able to provide this information from various perspectives. One of them I can talk about is the audit, what we call value for money audit. This is an audit that assesses the efficiency, effectiveness of service delivery. And of course, you have, Emmanuel, you have seen from our published reports that a number of issues arise out of those.
87 billion shillings for masks, and we give 54 billion shillings for relief, food relief. Quite a strange contrast. Yeah. And have we done that audit to satisfy, to see that actually these masks were provided? We've seen in your very reports contracts where suppliers were paid and contracts paid 2 months after. We've seen situations of influence peddling. These are the things that should be followed. These are very good leads.
And I'm happy that, you know, if a matter, you know, facts established, when you know the actual facts, that is already a step ahead towards solving the problem. Now, with the audit reports bringing out this matter, now it now creates a ground that enables other agencies to pick it up. And you know, for us, we are an organization that are mandated to report. Now, when the report comes out, the various agencies are supposed to pick it up from there.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
To bring in Kano, you described corruption as the beast. And to slay this beast is no simple joke. It has, I guess, it mutates in various forms. Now that you have these very interesting COVID audit reports from the Office of the Auditor General, and we've seen in the past, you've taken on, for instance, the highly placed officers in the Office of the Prime Minister who are interdicted in regard to the supply of food relief in the during the first lockdown. Has this been of interest to you? Do you see some quite good leads to investigate?
Yes. There are a number of issues to be investigated, and we will not keep a closed eye on it. We will definitely pick up some serious concerns in the Auditor General's report and follow them up. I would like to remind our viewers that the IGG remains the lead agency in the fight against corruption. And so now that His Excellency appointed a substantive IGG, we are looking forward to a rejuvenated fight against corruption, because if I may be very sincere to our viewers, the State House Anti-Corruption Unit is already overwhelmed with so many complaints from all over the country. Yet we are a small, agile unit that was established by His Excellency the President to serve or to work as a quick response to the outcry of the citizens, and to coordinate with other agencies such that citizens' concerns or problems are attended to. So back to the issue of Auditor General's report in the COVID-19 funds. Am I right if I call them COVID-19 funds, please, or funds allocated to COVID-19, to the fight against COVID-19? We will coordinate with the IGG to ensure that the concerns raised are attended to. Those we can conclusively follow up, we shall still do. I promise that we will not keep a closed eye. We will work with other agencies. We already attended to some issues in regard of the crisis caused by COVID-19 pandemic, we attended to the stranded students. You saw us in the park. I called upon
Yes.
the Ministry of Works officials and went with the Commissioner of Transport, and Uganda Police was well represented by the then or the former KMP commander, Commissioner Moses Kaferu. And when we were in the park, the Deputy IGP called in, and you saw us organizing transport. I personally led the coordination of government agencies again, because we called upon a number of government agencies, including universities like Makerere, Uganda Wildlife Authority, Ministry of Works, and they provided 29 buses, and Uganda Police provided 7 buses and 17 lorries that were covered and with seats, and all our children went home. So to us, that was a quick response, and that is our mandate also, to respond to the outcry. So and we also intervened when there was so much outcry about exorbitant charges in private hospitals. You saw us convening a meeting, and we requested those private hospital managers and proprietors to consider the situation that is not right to make abnormal profits. So we have not been quiet. We are still following up on a number of issues, and as I said, we will not keep a closed eye on the issues raised by the Auditor General's office.
Usually the president often believes, sometimes when he's appointing especially army officers, that he believes that they have the knack to fight because they fought at the perhaps treacherous battlefront. They can take on all these kind of monumental challenges. And in Uganda, there's been that, prism within to look at graft, that it's so easy to target what Justice John Bosco Katusi called the mukene, the silverfish, the small people, and leave out the big fish. When you are appointed, there was this belief that you were going to take on the big fish, the untouchables. I know that your office cannot do this single-handedly. It needs the other agencies, police, IGG. We now have a substantive IGG appointed. Are you going to take on the big fish?
Emmanuel, we have been taking on everybody reported, including the so-called big fish. My view remains that there is no small thief. Anyone who has stolen anything is a thief, whether big or small. But coming back or coming straight to your concern, which is a genuine concern, and indeed it has been in the public, and I wonder why many people believe or think that we are only running after junior officers or should I call them local or what? We have touched high-level officials. I want to tell you, our viewers and Emmanuel here, that we have about 26 officers arraigned before court, accounting officers level, the permanent secretaries, the managing directors, the chief executive officers, and the EDs, the executive directors. Those are the top level accounting officers, who are not many in the country. But for us at Anti-Corruption Unit, we've been able to take 26 of them. And if I had all the time, I would break them down. You remember we have the permanent secretary, now retired, the former of the OPM.
Yes.
We have the secretaries of commissions who are, of course, at permanent secretary level, the secretary of Human Rights Commission, the secretary of Equal Opportunities Commission, the secretary of Soroti University, also the vice chancellor, Soroti University. Those are top level officials. the managing director, Post Bank Uganda, with his, I think there were 2 executive directors and 3 directors from Post Bank, other managers, the ED is next to me because we work together closely, so I shouldn't mix the issues up. The executive director, Nagrik, his deputy procurement officers, the former CEO of Gaming and Rotaries. I mean, they are 26. The CAOs, chief administrative officers, we have 14 of them in courts of law. We have 16 town clerks in courts of law. Those are the top accounting officers. The issue remains that the top officials in government are not very many, but one top official comes with very many junior officers. So when I talk of 299 persons arraigned before courts, and I tell you that the accounting officers at the level, and those are the permanent secretaries. Meanwhile, we also have 2 members of parliament that we arraigned in courts of law. So we have touched the so-called big fish. We have touched everyone. We are not going to keep our eyes closed to anyone that people will point at. As long as the citizens remain, if they cooperate and report and help us to follow up the issues by showing us exactly what the problem is, the what, the where, the how, we will have this fight against corruption move forward, because we can only win when we work together. This beast of corruption needs every hand, every eye, and everybody. So I don't want to accept that we are about to start touching the big ones. We have already touched, but again, now that the IGG has been appointed, we are looking forward to rejuvenating the fight or amplifying it.
Yes, further. And Kano says now that the substantial IGG has been appointed, they are ready even to go and slay even the bigger dragons. And to bring in the ED, the question of conflict of interest is quite important in the area of procurement. And there are concerns that our laws and regulations are quite feeble in that area, and it's not clearly, the ambit are not clearly defined. Do you think it's a matter of concern? And then 2, you've started an online system. Do you think it's going to help in terms of efficiency and eliminating graft?
Okay, thank you again, Emmanuel. The conflict of interest is a big issue, and in terms of public procurement, if you are conflicted, you must declare so that you don't participate in the decision making. The conflict should be looked at as what was your role in decision making. And that's why you find if a procuring entity, say ministry, a government ministry, there are organs that are established by law in that process of procurement to make decisions. For example, you'll have people in the procurement unit, you'll have people who are going to conduct evaluation, you'll have people in the user department who do, say, specifications or statement of requirements or bills of quantities, and who later are going to be involved in supervision, in contract supervision. You'll have accounting officer who finally signs the contract and is involved in payment and approving all of those. But also you have contracts committee members who are involved in award decision, in approving the bidding document, in also providing internal checks so that the procedures are followed to the dot. So any of those members, if has a farm or a company or whatever, or his relative, a wife, a daughter, a child, then that will tantamount to conflict if that relative is participating.
Perhaps, sorry to interrupt you, perhaps do you think, in your view, one of the other methods to manage this problem is, for instance, to outrightly have a law that, for instance, says a minister's relative shouldn't take advantage of a lucrative tender because of the influence that a minister exerts. There are fears that that process may not be, transparent.
Currently, the law is, those organs I have mentioned, actually a minister, in terms of public procurement, does not directly, he may, I can't rule it out, that maybe can influence indirectly, but directly, they don't have any role in terms of decision making in a procurement process. So if the current provisions of the law in terms of conflict are those who are related to those organs I have talked about. Could be a wife of the chairman of contracts committee or a child, where the chairman is going to make a decision. If that is established, then that will be very wrong. But if he has, if his wife is participating, say, in a ministry, in another ministry, that one doesn't seem to tantamount to conflict, because in the other ministry, they are not involved in that decision making. They could be side calls and talk to their colleagues in the profession, but you do not touch it as being conflicted, because they were not involved in that process of decision making. Excuse me. In terms of the electronic government procurement, the online procurement, is another good reform that is coming to the procurement platform, because what are we talking about? Currently, we have been using the manual system. Manual system involving huge documents. You have put a tender out, you have issued a bidding document, it is huge, so many pages, some of them are even more than 500 pages. And people are submitting bids, so huge bids, so many volumes. So here, these manual processes which can be manipulated are going to move out, to go away because of automation. Automation or online procurement or electronic government procurement that has been introduced will require that everything is online. First of all, the providers or the government, those who are going to participate in government tenders are being registered now. So, meaning that to participate in any government tender, you must be registered. And the beauty with that is that you will always get notification. When there is an opportunity in a UNRWA or KCCA or Ministry of Water and Environment, you will get a notification. In the first place, actually you will access the procurement plan of that entity, so that you can know this entity, this financial year, their budget for procurement is this, and these are lined up procurements for the whole year, so that you can plan where to go. Should I concentrate in procurements in Ministry of Water, or in Ministry of Works, or in KCCA? And that procurement plan also provides for estimated values of those procurements. So it will enable these providers actually to plan where their competitive advantage is for purposes of bidding. But in terms of efficiencies, and that is actually what the public, what the citizens have been crying for.
Yes, the president
Is
saying that he wants even to see that in terms of efficiency. The Health Ministry and Ministry of Education through the army take up some of these contracts as so that we don't have delays.
Yes, and that has been the outcry. How do we achieve efficiency? And that automation will give us efficiency. It will give us high levels of competition because everybody, whoever is registered, will see that opportunity. It will reduce government transactional costs because now running around, printing, producing all these volumes of work, contracts committees sitting and they get allowance. Because now even the evaluation will be, I will be home and evaluating. Okay. So the transactions will reduce. Talking about what you have mentioned, yes, it will achieve efficiency. And actually, the framework, the legal framework provides on how that can be achieved or effected, because we have a regulation of what we call force account.
But doesn't that go against the spirit of free enterprise? There are many opportunities in this country. Okay. And these opportunities can't be exhausted in one. If we are talking about 2 ministries, how many ministries? We have more than 385 procuring and disposing entities. And the budget is so huge. Mr. Ngetho, to bring you in, you usually produce annual reports actually, which you table before Parliament, oversight committees like the Public Accounts Committee. But there's been a concern that sometimes what you produce is quite retrospective and the damage has already been done. You're saying billions of shillings have been siphoned and it's a 2017 audit and this is 2021. And the people who have taken this money have spent it and you stop at that process where you expect Public Accounts Committee to investigate and bring the report to the plenary, which is fully debated, and maybe the other agencies like CID and IGG can take on the role of prosecution. Isn't this a bit frustrating that sometimes you produce a lot of this work with quite incriminating evidence and sometimes nothing comes out of it?
Emmanuel, I think I want to explain maybe this aspect again in relation to audit. Office of Auditor General is an external auditor. Now, external audit is an audit which truly comes at the tail end of an exercise. But as I had explained earlier, that audit is an assessment of performance. So it means that you need to give an opportunity for performance so that you can assess the performance. I can illustrate it easily, maybe in the usual language, that if you are present in the kitchen, involved in, saying now, spouse, put this salt or enter this water, you cannot go to again on the table and start complaining that this food is not nice. You have been part of it. But the best thing is to allow this person to finish the cooking, and then you can assess, yes, this thing is okay or not. But now, what purpose does this, what I would call postmortem serve? First of all, it gives opportunity to assess the performance of the person. It gives the person to first work, and then you can assess. Then from that assessment, you are able to now tell whether somebody has done the thing rightly or not rightly. And as we said earlier also, that postmortem, I can even compare it with the medical. You can't do postmortem on somebody who is still alive. You need to give room to But also what we know is that there is already existing arrangements that can allow any maybe siphoning of funds on a day-to-day basis to be countered. Like we have what we call internal audit functions. I think you're aware of this.
Yes.
Internal audit functions are part of the organizations, although they report at the highest level. They provide a day-to-day an assessment which can be used. This gives the opportunity for the Auditor General, which is the external, to do it now at the end. And of course, you know, audit also, what I would say, also provides the future prospect. Future in the sense that when you assess what has happened, you can now make a recommendation that can address the future. So audit is what I would call proactive. Proactive in the sense that, yes, you use the back information, but to protect the future. Meaning that if recommendations are implemented, you will avoid subsequent problems. The siphoning will be stopped by sealing the loopholes.
People will be blacklisted.
Yes, sealing the loopholes. And of course the embarrassment that the people who have, you know, tampered with resources go through, like in Parliament you have seen. Sometimes the, you know, State House Anti-Corruption Unit following them. That embarrassment is too much. It's supposed to. It is preventive. That's why I say it actually acts as a you know, a deterrent. A deterrent. Now, I would think that we need to strengthen what I would call the immediate action on these reports. It's like saying we need to eat the food when it is still hot. Exactly. Yes, they have siphoned the money. But if the report is acted on fast, you might find the fund is still on the bank account. Yes. Or you might find that he is still wondering what to do with it. It is intercepted.
Where to conceal it.
Yeah, so if our reports are acted on with the urgency it deserves, the time when the situation is still hot, the persons involved have not yet been transferred, or they have not yet retired. Of course, the issue of the money being siphoned would be addressed. And I also think that another way of handling this is for us to work, you know, in collaboration with these various agencies. You know, there are agencies that work after an activity has taken place, like in the case of Auditor General. But there are others who work instantly. So if you are working in collaboration, it means our role, which comes later, will be supported by the role of those who work instantly, like I've given an example of the internal auditors. But there's also another modern audit that is coming out, which is called real-time audit.
Yes.
Real-time audit can be done by external auditors, but it is only done on activities that are done in phases, in the sense that at least a phase has to be completed, and then an audit is done, so that the information, the corrective advice given in that phase can be used to now proactively handle the next phase. That is called the real-time audit. So there are actual opportunities to really, you know, stop this siphoning money. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Kanu, coming back to you, corruption has, you know, as you're aware, it becomes quite difficult at times to get that smoking gun. Those involved in corruption have developed very sophisticated means to hide money. Some are even hiding it in offshore secrecy accounts and safe havens in Mauritius and Cayman Islands and all these places. However, there's the conventional view that why can't we start conducting lifestyle audiences, lifestyle audits, sorry. Why can't we conduct lifestyle audits? Someone simply earns 2 million shillings, but they have real estate. They are building apartments in all these rich palatial neighborhoods in Kololo and elsewhere. They have ranches, they have hostels, they are driving very expensive cars, and they are not producing. If you ask them to quantify what they have in terms of wealth, it's not that they are someone like the late Mulwana and they're producing milk and there's a balance sheet and this is the profit they're making. Why have we delayed to effect a lifestyle audit?
Thank you, Emmanuel. I have picked well, many points, but the one I want to start on from Dr. Maxwell here is that fighting corruption should mainly be preventive, not to be post-mortem. And I've liked it because I saw it work. The State House Anti-Corruption Unit, having been directed by the President to be a quick response unit to attend to citizens' concerns or even outcry, we did that to save the money in the relief food of government in OPM. It was a directive from the President that we quickly check what prices were on the open market. And when we did that quickly, had people who were involved out of office, that's how we managed to save the money before it was paid, because when we started the investigation, we proved that the prices on the market, on the open market, were still lower than what had been what had been given out to the suppliers. Then the prices reduced immediately. That's how we made the saving. Government didn't lose that money. So the fight against corruption should be more of preventive, other than taking people to court when it may not be easy to recover what they have already stolen and maybe taken outside the country, which is hard to bring back or recover. As you're putting it, that some people are opening accounts or have their wealth hidden in other countries by draining our own economy. It is sad. We really want to focus on awareness, and we can only achieve that when everybody joins the fight against corruption. You have asked about the lifestyle audits. I agree with them as a person. I wish we would have that. But again, the lifestyle audit can be supported by neighborhood watch.
Yes.
If people people you live with, those in your neighborhood or in my neighborhood, can keep watching. I have lived in Mbarwa, Namgongo, since I was a lieutenant. When I got married to my husband, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Asizwa, whose name you normally don't put. I am Edith Nakarema Asizwa, but the Asizwa is always cut off and you keep Nakarema. Anyway, but we have lived in our house since 2004 when we were lieutenants, and we are still there, and we are happy. So if my neighbors will get up one day and find me in a 4-storied house in 2 months, they should be concerned. Where has Nakarema gotten these billions of shillings? So I want to appeal to the public that before government looks at, because I don't pass laws, we need to appeal to our parliament to strengthen the life, or to pass a bill and maybe later make a law support the lifestyle audit. But neighborhood watch is more important, because that doesn't need to go through parliament. It needs us to watch one another, be each other's keeper, and ensure that we check each other.
I agree with you entirely.
Yes.
To bring you in,
I wanted to supplement.
Edie, yes, as we wrap this up in one minute or so, you can talk about that and also talk about procurement in infrastructure, which is quite a sticky issue, within a minute and a half.
The IG, Inspectorate of Government, they have a norm of leadership code. Every 2 years, at certain level of seniority of all public officers, including parliamentarians, declare assets. So there is need also to strengthen that area in terms of analysis of these assets that we declare every 2 years. So
otherwise it becomes a ritual. If you don't use, someone simply declares and there's no follow-up.
Yes. The infrastructure procurement is an interesting one. And we are looking currently about strengthening the regulations concerning complex, strategic projects of government. So that is clear, because the law initially had not anticipated, say, pre-contract financing or contract facilitated financing. You'll find a contractor who will go to China or UK, finance, investment bank, and gets resources and implements this infrastructure. So that can't go through this normal procurement process that we use, where you say you invite the bidders, then they submit bids, you evaluate them, because people here are looking for the money, and they need to be guaranteed that this money that has been brought eventually will be paid by government.
Thank you. To bring you in, just to wrap this up as we've come towards the end, the area of classified expenditure is quite an area of concern. There are people who believe that sometimes it's a conduit to take money without giving accountability for it. I know you have some kind of framework, but how can we improve the transparency? In the last supplementary, I think about 1.550 trillion, 1.45 trillion shillings went towards supplementary, specifically Defense and State House.
First of all, I think there's no public fund in this country which is not audited. Classified account is properly audited. And it is discussed in Parliament. Maybe the only thing that people might feel like it is not transparent is that it is discussed, what I would call, in an environment that does not expose the matters being discussed because of the nature. I can illustrate this. Emmanuel, we all have bedrooms, don't we? Now, the information for the bedroom that you cannot discuss in the sitting room. So, even if the matter of the bedroom is to be discussed, they will select some elders and use it. All other people will be chased away. Does that mean there is no transparency in the matters of it? Is. So, classified information is audited, discussed, and discussed in a manner similar to what I've explained here, like the bedroom matter. Perhaps. So there is no worry. All these are discussed, and Parliament that we trust is the one that handles. And this is done all over the country, all over the world. So there's no worry there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ongetho. Thank you, dear viewers who are coming to the end of this program. You've been watching Citizen Voices, and we've had a very distinguished panel, including the head of Anti-Corruption Unit at State House, Colonel Edith Nakalema, the ED PPDA, Mr. Turamye, and Mr. Ongetho from the Auditor General's Office, who is in charge of technical services. Our hashtag, once again, is Amplifying Citizen Voices. Have a good evening. I've been your host, Emmanuel Mutaiziwa, at Kampala Serena Conference Center. Have a great evening. Cheers.